So we've done the configuration time part of the demo, and now we'll split into the runtime RBAC application of that configuration. Now, to demonstrate that, we'll need to log into AppCenter as several different individuals and play their respective roles. But first, I should note that I, as demonstrator, have not configured my own user ID to be subject to any of the RBAC configuration that we just created. Therefore, logged in as myself, my account is considered unprivileged from an RBAC standpoint. So using my own account to try to, just note very briefly, see these keys right here? That little key, that little key. Those indicate that RBAC policies are applied to the machines. Little key icon on top of the VM icon. Anyway, as I was saying, using my own account to try to power off all three VMs, we'll see that web dev and web prod become pending approval. Why is that? Because they have policies that we configured in effect on them. The web anon server will power off right away because it carries no associated policy. So I'll say power down on web anon. I'll say power off on web dev, and power off on web prod. And what we see is that web anon powered off, whereas web dev and web prod are waiting for approval because of the RBAC policies that we placed on them. So my account will log off, and we'll log in as CTO. And we default right to the approvals screen. We're not going to approve anything as CTO, but we do see on the approvals screen of the account tab that the CTO can approve for both the web dev and the web prod power off request, which is part of what we intended the RBAC configuration to do. We wanted the Chief Technical Officer to be able to operate in both the development and production environments. But for now, we'll log off as CTO and log in as the development engineer. And on the approval screen, we can see that the dev engineer can approve only the operation on the web dev server, but not the operation on the web prod server. And it lists the people who can approve the web prod server, which is the production engineer, the CTO, and the CEO. Production engineer because he has specific production server authority, the CTO because he has all admin authority, and the CEO because he has all powerful authority. So the role limit that we configured on the policy authorizes only this approval for the dev engineer and not this approval. So the dev engineer is allowed to approve the operation on the web dev VM, and we will make it so that he does so. And we will see that the VM display on the Servers tab indeed reflects that the power off operation on the web dev VM goes through. So now we'll have the development engineer log off and the production engineer log in. And as the production engineer, we can see that the web prod server we are entitled to approve. So we approve it. And back on the server screen, in our environment, we see that the power down job is approved and the power down operation takes place. So after the web prod VM shuts down here, we can attempt, as the production engineer, to power it back on. And instead of powering back on, we see that it goes to waiting for approval. Because remember, we configured power on as an action which requires financial approval, because a running VM can consume resources and therefore incur cost. So we used RBAC to require finance to sign off. Therefore, the power on operation is displayed as waiting for approval. So we'll log off as the production engineer. And we'll log in as the CEO founder. The power on operation for web prod is waiting for finance approval, and the founder, who we just logged in as, has finance approval. If the founder or the CFO were to approve the operation, the VM would power on. But in this case, let's make it so that the founder declines the job for cost purposes. And we see that the power on job is declined. And I'll show you what that looks like from the perspective of the person who requested it. So the founder will log out, and the production engineer, the person who requested the web prod power on job, is going to log back in. And what the production engineer sees is the yellow alert on the machine that he tried to power on. And the server details screen shows that the power on job was denied by the CEO. So now that the production engineer knows that his boss declined the power on job, he can press the ignore and the servers tab will show the web prod VM back in its powered down state. And finally, there's one other piece of our RBAC configuration that we want to demonstrate the results of, and that's the UI visibility management that we configured. So we need the production engineer to log out, and we're going to have the CFO log in. And when we do, we will see that AppCenter suppresses the display of the network tab. So normally, for all our other logins, it was servers, network, resources, and account. But for the CFO, we configured UI visibility restriction to not display the network tab. And indeed, that's what we see for the CFO. That is a whirlwind tour look at NaviCloud's role-based access control. As I hope we began to show, RBAC can provide for you substantial control over your cloud actions and objects at the levels that your own regulatory requirements call for. I do want to let you know that the AppCenter online help file includes an RBAC tutorial document that details an RBAC configuration very similar to the one that we demonstrated in this video. So you can review that material as well in order to see and experiment with how RBAC will best suit your own access control requirements. And with that, I'll bring to a close this video presentation. As always, thank you very much for your time and your attention.